I spent $2,200 on a good one, and I hated it for just about every moment I owned it. Oof, hefty statement, hey? G'day camper. That is number 5 on the list. Number 1 is this teapot or kettle. See, when you're car camping, you've got limited space, you want to make use of every piece you can, and that means having items that are kind of dual purpose. Well, I don't know why I got a teapot. I guess maybe early on it was a limiting belief that if you want to boil water at camp, you need a kettle. Well, here's what I carry instead. Billy can. And mine's got a spout. Apparently some people think it's weird for a billy can to have a spout. The key thing is, when I was carrying the kettle, I had that, and then I'd have pots and pans for boiling vegetables and cooking in. Well, with a billy, a nice wide open top, I have done mashed potatoes in that. I boil up 2-minute noodles and all my veggies. And of course, if I want to boil some water for a cup of tea or coffee or wash the dishes, boiling receptacle with my spout for easy pouring. Right, what's number 2? The oversized tarp. Now, I'm 18 years old, right? I don't have any of my own camping gear yet. I've literally just had my 18th birthday. I've got $200 worth of camping store gift vouchers burning in my hand, ready to buy my first kit. And every camp needs a tarp, right? But not just one of those crappy old blue tarps. No, we've got to have a really nice, thick, silver-backed one with nice sturdy eyelets on the edge. What do you think? How big should we go? Not 2x2. How many people can shelter under a 2x2? Nope. I got 5x5. A 5x5 meter tarp for a single man who went camping on weekends with maybe 1 or 2 mates. Needless to say, it remained packed up, took up a ton of space in my car, and was very heavy. The only time I appreciated having it was when we were camping with a group of about 6 down at Wellington Dam for 2 nights on a very rainy weekend. I hung on to that for over 10 years, and it's now being used as a tonneau cover on my mate's truck. Where is the there it is. Number 3, this stuff. DEET Repellent. I'm not specifically having a go at the Bushman brand. I mean, this is the only brand of DEET that I use. What I regret about number 3 is not buying it or using it, but just that I used it so heavily. And the turning point came when I was camping with my wife, then girlfriend, and we had these plastic stemless wine glasses, drinking wine together all night, a couple of mozzies around, we'd sprayed this on, and when we went to clean the wine glasses the next day, we could not get the fingerprints off. DEET melts plastic, and if it does that to plastic, what's it doing to your skin? Now Shane from the Have a Crack YouTube channel had a very similar experience. Take a look.
Every year we get together and have a street Christmas party. It's hosted at one of our houses. The last time that we hosted it, which was a couple of years ago, I couldn't work out what these things were in the morning, the day after. There were all these like horseshoe sort of dead points on my lawn, and then other parts of it were circular that was dead lawn and a footprint in the middle. You see where I'm going with this? Well, if this is killing my lawn, I probably don't want to put this stuff on my face.
They also recommend never using DEET on a child under 2 and children under 12, no more than 20%. I've always used the 40% DEET, but you can also get 10 and 20% DEET and even all the way up to 80% DEET. Now I use this, the local sandfly and mozzie stuff. This is all natural, DEET free, and it actually feels good on your skin. Actually leaves you feeling a bit moisturized. It's really good against mozzies and sandflies. It does absolutely nothing for regular flies. The other catch is it lasts only about an hour, so you're putting it on every hour. The DEET-based stuff does last a lot longer. The only thing that does anything against ticks and leeches is DEET. Number 4 is battery lanterns. Now, very early models going away from gas lanterns, we had fluorescent. They weren't that bright and they lasted like 2 hours on the battery. Then in the mid to late 2000s, LEDs were maturing just enough to be put into lanterns, but they weren't that good either. But a bigger problem than weak light sources was the batteries. Lithium ion was like really niche at the time. We were still using something called nickel metal hydride. Nickel metal hydride had a really high self-discharge. It could be anywhere from 10 to 30% just in a couple of days. A nickel metal hydride battery could completely self-discharge itself in 2 to 4 weeks, and in hot weather, it was worse. Then after they just went and discharged themselves in your shed, they would never recharge to their full capacity. How I regret buying that LED lantern in 2008. If I'd have just held on to the gas lantern another 5 or 6 years, I would have been way happier. And by then, we had the lithium-ion batteries and LEDs that were actually worth putting in a lantern. Number 5 is the folding rooftop tent. Now, in 2012, the rooftop tent market was very different. You had the folding style ones, they ranged from about $800 to $3,000 for a really good one. If you wanted hard shell, you were pretty much limited to James Baru or Auto Home Maggiolina, and they were fiberglass shell pop top ones, and those would cost you anywhere from $4,500 to $7,000 Australian dollars. So I spent $2,200 on a good one, and I hated just about every second of it. See, I couldn't fit my bedding in it when it was packed. I had to pull blankets, pillows, and everything out and find somewhere to put them in the car. Even then, when I folded it over, it was a pain in the ass. There was so much canvas to be tucked in. Then you had to try and wrestle the cover on, which had a zipper around the outside. Often it was a two-person job, while I stood on the tent to get it compressed enough while someone else zipped it up. It was too heavy and difficult to get off the car, so it was on the roof racks full time. I disliked it that much that I would even take my single swag if it was just me going out, and the rooftop tent would just be up there using fuel for the whole weekend. Which, by the way, was another drawback of it. One time I was going on a trip with the 4-wheel driving Australia boys. We were going down to the south coast. I had convoyed up with Torben, who drove a V8 Land Cruiser, fully decked out. I was driving a 2.8 litre turbo diesel Nissan Patrol. Me and Torbs used within a litre of each other the same amount of fuel, mostly because of that rooftop tent. Difference is, he could get up hills. I was knocking it back to 60 k's an hour just to try and get up some of the hills. I would never buy a folding rooftop tent again. Number 6, the air mattress, or the airbed, or if you're a POM, I think it's called a Lilo, innit? Cheap and cheerful? No, cheap and nasty. I mean, you can pay 150, 200 bucks for one of these, or you can get one for 10 to 50 bucks at Kmart. If you're just summer camping, or you're just sleeping by yourself, fine, okay, yeah, it's probably gonna work. But if you're gonna sleep with someone else, the moment one person moves, the other person moves as well. And then the biggest problem, and this is what made me suffer, is when you go out camping in winter, cold, even cool, man, like anything below 15 degrees. The plain old airbed doesn't have insulation, and it gets cold. Even if you have a 0-degree sleeping bag, the problem is where your body contacts the mattress, it compresses the insulation in the sleeping bag, and the cold comes straight through anyway. Some of them, like this Sea to Summit mat, actually have a layer of insulation bonded on the inside of them, and that helps enormously, although that's more of a hiking mat. If you really want an air mat, get a self-inflating one. They're pretty cheap these days for what you get. This is, again, a hiking one. Yes, an adult can use that. It's a 3/4 length, but we actually got it for my toddler. This is full of foam, and so it's essentially vacuum packed. When you roll it up, you squeeze the air out, shut the valve, and it stays nice and thin. As soon as you open that valve, the air comes back in. Now that is foam all the way through, so you get the comfort and insulation of foam, but it doesn't take as much space up in the car. Plain old air mats, never again. Number 7 is my first side awning. I must have got this thing just as the simple side pull-out awning was becoming popular. Mine didn't have any side arms on it, so usually you pull them out and then you pull a couple of arms out to lock it in place and it'll freestand. Mine didn't have that, so it didn't freestand in the slightest. Kind of had to pull it out and then slot the pole. The poles weren't even attached, they were just like rolled in the awning. Had to attach the poles just like tent poles. Then you had to put this double-ended guy rope over eyelets at the top, and then you had to put 2 pegs per leg. Oh, it's a nightmare just to explain, to be honest. I think I used it once, I don't know where I got it, and I don't know what I did with it after. Look, we're all gonna make purchases we regret. I'm definitely gonna make some more, especially in camping gear, and I'm sure you're gonna know about it on the channel here. But if you've got any camping gear purchase regrets of your own, please consider leaving a comment, and trust me, I know it's hard to admit you hate something you just spent $2,200 on, but your comment may just be helping a fellow camper in the future.